Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the To Hull and Back podcast, sponsored by Old Zoological Bar in Hull and Kingfisher Fish and Chips. A nice, happy podcast episode because we have got two back-to-back 1-0 wins. Intro done nice and smoothly, so I'll hand you back over to Nathaniel.
Yes, I'm your host who can't be bothered to do the intros anymore.
No, you can. You just have technological issues.
I do. But that was lovely. So thanks, Ant. Also joined by Tom. How are you, Tom?
Yeah, brilliant after yesterday. Yeah, brilliant. How about you?
I'm delighted because it's been a really positive week for the club. You know, they've had 2 weeks off since the last match, 3 points. 2 wins in a row now. Sort of games we've had to battle out for the 3 points. But I think the most exciting thing, even if we hadn't won against Millwall yesterday, the signings we got in the last few days of the January transfer window. Did we win the window? I'm sure we'll talk about that. Is it even possible to win a window? We are certainly in a stronger position, at least with the players we have, than we did at the start of the window. So, yeah, pretty positive. Do we want to start with the Millwall game or start with the transfers? We've got to start with the transfers, right?
Yeah, happened first, didn't it?
Yeah. So I think we talked about Giles last week, but a loan deal with an option for permanent. Young player, we desperately needed a left back, pretty much the best left back we could get. So, Ant, now that was confirmed, what are your thoughts on that deal from Luton Town?
Yeah, no, really good. I mean, we've been crying out for a natural left back for God knows how long. He is the player that we thought Vinagre would be, but if you were offered one or the other, I think we'd have all taken Giles at the time anyway. 21 assists, I think they said he's had over the last 2 years. So we've got creativity there, an outlet with actual final ball product. Something again that this season we've been desperately lacking is that little bit of quality in the final third. So you think that once he gets a few training sessions and a couple of games under his belt and he gets that connection going with the players around him, that we'll start seeing a really good version of Giles. But you could just tell, in that game, how much more naturally balanced we were with him down there, and we were playing out from the back a lot more comfortably as well. And when you've got him and Zarori or him and Philogene, whatever link-up play they do down that side, it's just danger for any opposition defence, and it's quite exciting as a City fan to have as a prospect.
And I think it's exciting that even though that is a loan, you'd like to think that if things go well and he stays fit, that'll be one we can have for next year as well. Tom, it's a bit peculiar how we've gone from at the start of the season with Vinagre and we thought Furlong as second choice to Giles and Jacob. But, I mean, I'm much more confident in the left-back choices we have now. Jacob's a good backup. So what do you think about that, sort of looking ahead?
I think that obviously needed, first and foremost, you obviously needed to address that position. It's caused us the most problems all season. Obviously had to play Greaves there at times, Coyle, Vinagre, obviously looked great when we had the chance, but obviously injuries have played a part in him being obviously released from there. But obviously Giles, like Ant said, brilliant signing, the best we could probably get in that position, in terms of his output, and 11 assists last season speaks volumes about what he's capable of producing. And we saw glimpses of that yesterday against Millwall. The way he travelled sort of down the wing, he was looking to get crossed into the box, and obviously he's not a slouch as well. And obviously, like Ant said, the connection that he can build up there, down the wing, is obviously going to be integral in the second half of the season. And it's great to have that balance there. But yeah, obviously with Giles, it's just the only question you'll have is we're not really a team that likes putting crosses into the box, but you've seen a lot of his assists have come from where you're whipping a ball in. So we've got obviously a different dynamic with a higher coming off the bench and Billy Sharp. So hopefully we can start sort of mixing up our game a little bit and getting crosses in, because I think that was sort of a criticism I had yesterday's performance. We got into promising positions, but then we didn't really deliver the final ball or choose to deliver. Instead, was passing it back, and then the opportunity sort of closed up. So one thing I'd like to see from us more is just getting more players into the box and putting more crosses in, because that's how we can score more goals.
Mm-hmm. Just reading out some stuff that Luton fan Ollie K, who you can find on Twitter, has told me that they were surprised that, because he is Luton's biggest purchase ever. What's that called? Record signing.
5 million.
Surprised that they're moving him on so quickly. But I mean, I think he was saying it's not Premier League quality. And fair enough, we're not in the Premier League just yet, so it won't matter for us. But he probably does need this little bit of extra time. And Rossini has had a great track record of improving young players. So, I think that is, as I mentioned, pretty much the best signing we could have made in that position. And then who was next? I think it was just Ohio a few hours after that. I keep wanting to call him, and at the match, cheering him on, Noah, as in Noah Dicko, but no, because he was a number 9 striker as well. Noah, I might just call him Noah anyway if it's easier. But Noah Ohio, some nice touches yesterday, holding the ball up. I think probably the one that has maybe the most to prove. He's never played in England before, at least at senior level. But some nice touches. Clearly quite a quick player like THAB. So is he the sort of striker that you think we need, Ant?
I don't know. We've not seen enough of him. I think he's been brought in literally because of the striker situation we've got. THAB's going to be out for an unknown length of time at the minute until he's had his injections and we know fully what's going on there. Connolly's made of glass and plays 2 or 3 games and he's out again for another 2 or 3 weeks. And then, your only other backup start is 37-year-old Billy Sharp, who I think doesn't look like he's got that physicality and that athleticism anymore to be a starting player. So we needed somebody to play up there and a rotational aspect as well if you're going to play a 2-fan up there. So it made sense to bring in a young, hungry player. Obviously, what I liked the idea of coming here and playing because, from all the interviews and everything he said, he's really excited for the challenge. He wants to be here, he wants to sort of prove himself. So, any player that wants to come here, similar to Irma, which I'm sure we'll touch on, any player that wants to come here and play, fair play, bring them in, because you don't want players that are just here for a payday or anything like that. If they believe in the project and they want to contribute, then so be it. So let's hope that obviously it's the ground running. I feel like he looked like he had a lot of pace. He had a bit of threat about him. Watching him with his warm-ups, he's got a bit of a monster of a left foot as well. So I feel like if we get him in those shooting positions, he might get a few goals.
He reminds me of Romelu Lukaku when he first came on the scene.
He's bigger than I thought he'd be.
Yeah, his build and his sort of stance, he's like stocky, and I think if he's anything like Lukaku, then we've got a good player on our hands. But I agree with what you're saying there. Like, we need like a striker up there that's good at pressing, and Billy Sharp isn't that sort of player. Obviously, he's going to work his socks off for the team, but physically, you saw how well 2-fan press yesterday. Like in the first half, obviously we executed it to perfection. The game plan, like pressing high, we didn't let him play out, and obviously we forced him into errors, and that was sort of a perfect example of the Rossini football we've been playing. Like, and obviously 2-fan was a huge part of that. But it's good now we've got like a striker option off the bench in Ohio who hopefully can make a good impression. And obviously if it doesn't work out, it's all right. It's only a learn. So I'm interested to see like if he can be a success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think Lukaku, that sort of thing, you could see him sort of trying to roll defenders with strength. I mean, I could see that he was quick and big from the videos I was watching from Standard Liège of him, but in person he was like massive. And it's good he's got those attributes that he's quick and strong. You can't really get twice your size, and you can't really ever get quicker. You can only really get slower as you get older. So I think what Rossini will be sort of training up is, in training with the skill and his first touch. That maybe won't be as good if he's come from Belgium, and hopefully learn a thing or two off Billy Sharp. After just seeing how sort of physically imposing he is yesterday, I think he'll certainly be. I don't worry about him not being able to adapt to the physicality of the league, because he's like 5 me's. He's huge, so I think he'll cope with that. And because I'm not massive. Wally Daft has asked a question. We'll answer that now. Any news on the pitch in terms of getting it repaired? Because it looked awful. It looked bad against Norwich. It looked worse yesterday against Millwall. I think Rossini said we're getting a new one. And you said there.
Yeah, they said it in the 1904 live event thing. Tan said that they're well aware, because I think the style of play that we want to play, that pitch isn't going to do us any favors in that sense. You need a nice pristine bit of turf if you want to pass the ball around like we do. So I believe they've told Rossini that we're spending $1.5 million on a full pitch replacement in the summer. So it's not going to benefit us this season, but you can't unfortunately relay a pitch halfway through a season because we've got a player there. So yeah, we'll have a better pitch next season at least.
Yeah, we'll just have it like that photo at Stamford Bridge where it was just a beach. Play on that.
Yeah, well, the rugby's back on it as well now, so it's going to go through a tough few weeks to the end of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, I do think that obviously there's this topic before, does the rugby like do more damage? But I do think probably the football, I don't know, people think football and other people say rugby, but either way, like you're having 2 matches a week on a pitch, it's not going to do any favours. So it'd be good to get a new pitch in the summer.
Well, it certainly looks worse after rugby. I mean, I'm sure there's more science to it than that, but I generally say it needs to have grass on it, right? That I think that makes sense to me. And then the next signing was Abdoush Amr, and full name Abdul Kadir. I mean, I don't know how people are going to pronounce it.
Abdoush Amr, apparently, is how you pronounce it.
Abdoush Amr. Irma works very much for the Hull accent. I mean, initially, when this was linked, I thought that was complete nonsense because we have been linked to him just Turkish paper talk, nothing in it, pretty much every transfer window. Same with Mia Ziyech at Fenerbahce. I mean, that might happen one day. Same with Fraser Campbell before he signed for us again. So I thought, well, that's not happening. And then kept going. Now it's announced £2 million deal, probably with add-ons and something like a 50% add-on clause, which indicates to me that they were, that they were desperate to get him in now, and just even though they might lose a bit of money on the deal in the future, hopefully they're thinking, well, the main thing is to get to the Premier League no matter what. And we'll talk about financial fair play in a moment, but if he does help us do that and we lose a bit of money on him, selling him in a few years' time, at least he's helped us get promoted potentially. So Amr, he didn't play yesterday. His presence sort of encouraged a lot of Turkish flags to be at the match, which Millwall fans didn't appreciate because they're Millwall. Sweeping generalisation, but there is a stereotype there.
They were singing the national anthem, weren't they? Like,
yeah.
Well, I was thinking, what they're doing, man.
Was it that it was initially reserved for away fans? They didn't fill it out. There weren't as many Millwall fans as perhaps there would be other clubs. So Adrian let some Turkish school trip people populate that stand partly. Is that the explanation?
I think it is.
That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, a lot of fans will have just brought their Turkish.
I think it was just. I've seen a couple of the Turkish lads from that corner commenting. They were literally English-born Turks, so they lived in Hull, and because obviously of Adjan, and then we'd signed Irma, and we've got Tufan as well. They saw a chance to get some tickets to the game. Probably got some friends and family to buy tickets too, and just ended up with a corner of the ground together and brought the flags. I can't see doubt wrong with it, but that's unfortunately the view of some rather old-fashioned clubs, unfortunately, that probably didn't seem too keen on it. Less than probably 1% of the 21,000 people there that were Turkish, and they chose to focus on that. It says a lot, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
Certainly does. Very disappointing. But what isn't disappointing is the signing of Ömer. I think Rossini has probably learned a little bit about, especially what happened to Simic, probably what happened to Pelkas as well, Tete, a lot of players that we signed from Turkey, especially, or from other clubs, other countries, that they've struggled with the physicality of the league. I think Rossini is aware of that. So usually you'd spend £1 million on a player and they'd come straight into the lineup. Whereas this time Ömer, I'm sure I'm going to go on him a lot because I get mixed up with the names. He's probably going to start in a few weeks' time, bare minimum. We don't want to rush him in, and with Carvalho in the middle in his probably preferred position, that's good thing that we can wait for him to play. So is that the main concern, that it could be another one of those? Because he's not an Ohio, he's certainly a little ditty player.
I think if you look at how many appearances he's made over 200 appearances by the age of 24. To me, that shows like he's had a good injury record over there, and he's physically obviously well and capable to up to the standard. Whether that will translate across the championship remains to be seen, but it certainly looks like, to me, he's got the technical qualities to come into the side and make an impact. And and he also like fills in multiple positions because he can play off the right, the left, or central. And with the fact we've got the likes of Zaroury and Carvalho on loan, it means that he has a lot of time to embed himself between now and the end of the season. And then obviously when them players go back, he'll have a chance to sort of stamp himself out in the first team, because we know the likelihood of us getting Carvalho in that back is unlikely. But it's a long-term signing, and I'd like to see him sort of play off that right, sort of cutting in, and perhaps in the number 10 as well. But it obviously gives us that other option as well, and it'd be good to see him. So, it's obviously a busy period, like it was between now and the end of the season. So he'll get a chance to shine, and hopefully he can, do himself justice and become a good player for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other thing is that I've completely forgotten, but no, it's completely gone. And say something. What's that, I think?
So the Emma transfer for me is an interesting one, because I feel like everything that we've seen from fans of his previous clubs have said that he's very, very talented. He's very exciting. He just needs to work on his final product. So he sounds like he'll fit right in, which is good, because that's what we are this season. Very technically gifted and promising, but missing a little bit in that final third. But like Tom said, it's giving him that chance to, behind the scenes, get to know all the lads on the training pitch without the added pressure of getting chucked straight into a starting 11 in a club in a country that you've not played in before. So, Tufan can probably take him out and take him to some of the best places in and around all that he's been. And he's got a fellow countryman there. Yeah, he could take him to the deep. Coyle will probably take him for tapas on Fruit Market or something like that. Apparently he does that, doesn't he? Rosenior wanted him, which is the main thing. So at the minute, any transfer that Rosenior's made, barring Eboué, and Vinagre to an extent, have usually worked. So let's just back him on it and then see what he's got to offer.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you said there. That's what I wanted to say, that this is the first signing we've made from the Turkish Super League that Rosenior has done. Tufan, Aliar, Sinek, Pelkas. Other than Lakilo, who was on loan to Istanbulspor, it was actually from the Netherlands we signed him technically. This is the first one that Rosenior's done, so I'm not sure he will have signed him if he thought or didn't think he could fit into England, whereas the other players we've had problems with were mostly in the first few windows under Adjan, where especially Sinek, like Tufan from Watford in the Premier League, you can understand that because he's already been in England. But Sinek was definitely the one where he has signed Sinek because it was a sort of PR move. It was a good player in Turkey, but he's come here and he's just sort of literally crumbled, unfortunately for him. But he did get an assist immediately on his debut for Hatayspor, so I think he just prefers playing in Turkey.
Against Shotar Abaladz's team as well.
Yeah, and then of course Rosenior said that Emma's performance against us in the friendly we played against Trabzonspor during the World Cup, that was also a big reason why we signed him. So yeah, I think that's incredibly exciting. Don't know when he'll start, because with Carvalho and Zaroury and Philogene, they're going to have to drop some stinkers for Emma to get in. But I think that's exciting.
That was an interesting comment from Ethereum, to be fair, because he was saying about clubs owing Adjan money for getting the player cheaper than you'd expect, because the Fortuna Sittard central page that said about Panda said the same thing, that he should have gone for about 4 or 5 million, but because the club has something to do with Adjan, we got him for dirt cheap, like 1.5 million or something. So it feels like Adjan's just calling in all his favours. He's just going around these European clubs going, do you know that money you owe me? Knock it off, but just give us that player for a cut price.
But doesn't that just show you how important it is that like the vast majority of football ownership, especially the higher up the divisions you go, the owners are not football people. They bought a football club because that's sort of the standard thing you do. If you're rich, you buy a football club and you put money into it and you don't know much about the team. Of course, Adjan didn't know anything about Hull before he came here, but he's sort of immersed himself in it now. But as the
main thing was that Adjan was always a football fan. Like, he understood the sport and how much it means to local communities. See, this is what I was saying to, because I was talking to my uncle I went to the game with on the weekend about the Alams and where they went wrong. is that they saved the club from obviously we were going to go extinct if they didn't come in and save us, but they saved the club because ASM understood how much it meant to the local community and they had the money to do that. But they even admitted this, they were never footballing people. So when they're in charge of a football club, they tried to run it like a business and made business decisions instead of surrounding themselves with people who knew football and could advise them, don't do this, don't do that. But then again, they were the kind of people that didn't like to be told no. So Ajin has done the opposite, where he come in, he understands football, he's got people around him.
Yeah, Tan's so important. That's why I think as well.
Yeah. So he's surrounded himself with people that advise him well. I feel like Ajin probably is like a very excited child. He comes in and goes, "Yeah, let's just do this, do that," and Tan's like, "Yeah, let's do it, but let's calm down a bit," kind of thing. He's been that bit of a steady head for him. So they seem to be a very good partnership, and I think we're quite lucky to have them two in charge. Because when you look at some of the states of some of the football clubs at the minute, I mean, look at Reading. It could have been us that. So
yeah, it very lucky. Like when obviously that Dai Young wanted to take over as we was in the Prem. So obviously he failed the fit and proper test. But if that was like a season before, we could have been in deep shit because obviously the Allams wanted to sell, and obviously the EFL fit and proper test just doesn't work at all clearly because look at all the clubs that have gone bust or doing bad at the minute. So yeah, we was lucky in that grad. Obviously, we're really lucky now to have two brilliant earners like taking the club in such a obviously in the forward direction. You know what I mean? Doing everything right. So yeah, it's great.
I mean, the final signing we made, perhaps the most important because we've been desperate for, a second winger essentially since last summer. Not even the summer of this season, the previous summer. We've struggled with wingers the whole time, struggled even not only to have two good wingers, but two natural wingers on the pitch. And now we've got Philogene, who, of course, we're Hull fans, we're going to say is the best winger in the league. Pretty much, every club with a good winger is going to say theirs is, but he is certainly top 5. Yeah, I don't think there's any debate about that. Yeah, top 3, and then you're going to say top 2.
Clark, Somerville, and Philogene, easily the best 3 in the league.
Yes. But then Morgan Whittaker scored like 800 goals, so I think he's going to be.
Yeah, but he plays sometimes as a number 9 as well, so I feel
he's a forward, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a vague wide forward, which doesn't count. But then, yeah, Rossini said that they want as good a winger as they could get because they need to sort of take the pressure, the focus, the attention, the defensive attention of the other team away from Philogene on the other wing. Rossini said that Anas Aruri, who we've got on loan from Burnley, was the best winger in the Championship last year. I think that's just a nice compliment. I'm not sure if that's true. I'm not even sure whether he was the best winger or the second best winger at Burnley last season, considering I had Benson and Nathan Teller, although I guess he was up front. But I think that's an incredible signing. Almost scored a wonder goal in the first 5 minutes against Millwall. So, Tom, Anas Aruri, thoughts?
You're not going to make that pun that you made before the.
Well, we'll do it in a bit.
Yeah, obviously brilliant signing. He scored 10 goals in all competitions last season for Burnley. I think he created like 6 assists as well. So you knew straight away he was going to bring that attacking threat, and that's what we saw against Millwall. Like as soon as he picks up that ball, he's that sort of player that gets you excited. The way he sort of travels with the ball, he's great at sort of like drawing defenders in and then manipulating the ball inside and drinking past defenders and obviously fashioning space to put across into the box. And I think sometimes this season we've lacked that guile in wide areas apart from like Philogene. So it's great to sort of have Zaroury on board now. And, obviously if he scored that thunder strike within the first 5 minutes, it would have been a great way to cap his debut. But obviously we have to settle for Philogene's left-footed volley instead, which was good. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Obviously, Zaroury, I think he can be a huge success for us. It gives you sort of that obviously Rossini said after the game that they can both play on either side, so you can swap them about in the game. Obviously, we know how good Philogene is from the left. Zaroury can play off the right as well. So it gives you that sort of versatility, and having Carvalho, Philogene and Zaroury in behind the strike, it's just ridiculous when you look at that. And when we get Seri back as well, next to Morton, you just think you're pinching yourself sometimes watching these sort of players at Hull City, because 2 years ago we was watching like Tom Eaves and George Honeyman. So, it's great progress.
Oh, Honeyman was good. Pick out someone else. Marcus Maddison. How dare you? Marcus Maddison, Martin Samuelson, James Scott.
Yeah, that was like 4 years ago, and I won it.
Well, yeah. Oh dear, we're old. Don't appreciate that at all. Rossini said that sometimes we're a bit too nice. He's mentioned that Connolly, his concussion's gone. He's gone back to the way he is, just being a nasty person. And I've heard Zaroury is exactly like that. He's not a very good guy. He's an ass.
I'll give you the little.
The viewer count just dropped by about 15.
It was only on 15
immediately.
Yeah. So interesting to see what position Zaroury was going to play. Left or right wing. Philogene scored with both feet, and very easily took that left sort of half volley away. Burnley fans said that if we're bringing him in for the right wing, he's not going to have a very good time. I think he scored pretty much every goal last season with his right foot or a header. So I think him on the left wing, Philogene on the right, probably the best way to go, because I think Philogene scored most of his goals with his left foot anyway from the left wing. So
I think they're both as dangerous. Yeah, the good thing about them both is they're both fairly adaptable with both feet. Zaroury will score the majority of his goals with his right foot, but so does Philogene. I think you can put either of them on either side and rotate throughout the game, and it just gives fullbacks a different question to answer every time. But the exciting thing about someone like Zaroury is, I was talking to a Burnley fan I know, he's the one who told me that he was coming in the car, so that I feel like that was vindicated. I was like, yay. But he said that he's better than Benson. So if you were looking for a player to make a difference, Benson's one of those who, when he's contributing to a game, Benson doesn't really do much. He just scores worldies. So he just cuts in off his left and scores top bins in the far corner. But that's about as much as he contributes to a game. Whereas Zaroury all round is a far better player. So it sounds like we ended up with a better winger of the two. And it excites me because, like you said, the good thing about our team at the minute now is that before, teams would have highlighted Philogene as the main threat, will have doubled up on him and tried to, isolate him out of the game. But now you've got players like Philogene, Cavalier, Zaroury. If they doubled up on Philogene, it's going to give Cavalier more space. If they double on Zaroury and Philogene, then Cavalier's going to have the freedom in the middle with Tufan. So it seems now we've got so many different players to try and nullify to stop our threat that it's just going to be so exciting to see as a fan in an attacking sense, and hopefully gives us that bit of extra quality in the final third that has probably been our biggest issue for the first 6 months of this season.
What I like as well is the budding partnership between Zaroury and Giles as well. Obviously we know Giles likes to overlap, and I think when you've got him overlapping, that creates more space for Zaroury cutting inside, and that's obviously one to watch probably the rest of the season. But yeah, now we've got Giles there, so it gives you that extra balance, and yeah, it's great being able to watch these sort of players now. It's perfect and fires the playoffs.
And it's a big compliment for Zaroury, I think, that it looked like he'd been playing with us for about 6 weeks. I feel like he just slotted straight in. He clearly understood the system. He knew where to find players. He just looked like he'd been here for a while. Giles, you can tell, is still getting into the swing of things, but I just feel like Zaroury slotted straight in, and I think that's a good sign, because hopefully he'll like we say, he rattled the bar with that shot, didn't he? So hopefully he hits the ground running and gives the teams another option, like we said, with Philogene and him on the pitch.
I think it shows the transition as well that we've made as a club. Like before, I think under Shotta we're signing players based on all the factors. It was just based on he's a good player, let's bring him in. But now we're signing players that we know can fit into the dressing room and the philosophy and has the quality as well to play in the squad. And I think, like you've said, that most of the signings we made in Rossini have gelled in well. You've seen like the likes of the lap come in, Morton being integral to our hopes this season. Obviously Carvalho now and Zaroury and all these players, it just shows that the recruitment is being much improved since Rossini's come in. I think he's brought that sort of nous as well. Obviously knowing the top 4 divisions, and that's so crucial. But yeah, it's exciting times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's certainly a transfer strategy now, isn't there? Whereas before, it was just a bit scattergun, and before that, well, we used to have no budget, so we just get whoever we could. That's not a strategy, that's just desperation. And then when Ajin first came in, there wasn't a strategy because we had too much money. We just bought literally anyone we wanted, but didn't really think how was that going to fit in, because we signed about 5 number 10s and had Slater and Tufan on the wing. It doesn't really work, does it? So let's actually talk about the match. 1-0 against Millwall. After we scored after the first 5 minutes, I thought this could be 3 or 4. Had to battle it out just like we did against Sunderland. Shows another part of the game that we've sort of developed in the last few weeks. I think we've needed that to come sort of through a very difficult period without Philogene and Seri. Positives in the first half, maybe less so in the second half, but puts us in a good position. And even though we didn't create that many chances, definitely deserve the points.
I would probably say so. I feel like Millwall probably could make a claim for they might have felt good value for a point at full time, but first half I thought we absolutely blew them out of the park. I mean, the first 25-30 minutes we were absolutely outstanding. That was probably some of, if not the best football we'll have seen at the MKM since Marco Silva days. Crisp passing, fast, like the some things we've criticised before, the style of play, the urgency, the speed was up. We caused Millwall all sorts of problems. They didn't even have a shot. The first 45 minutes of the game, they had 0 shots, and that just sort of showed our control. I feel like we faded off a bit in the first half, but I felt like it was more cruise control because we were so comfortable in that half that it was sort of a natural take the foot off the gas kind of thing. But then you expect us to come out the second half all guns blazing, and I feel like Millwall identified that they really needed to change shape and change a couple of people, and they came out all sort of caused us all sorts of problems. I don't think we really recovered. I feel like the second half we were more or less just sort of hanging on. I feel like it took probably a bit too long for the subs to come on. I thought I feel like we needed changes probably about 10 minutes before we actually started making them. And it was, I think we only ended up making 2 subs or something, didn't we? I think only
Doherty, Ohio, and Jacob.
The 3 changes. But no, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, again, similar to Sunderland, you've got to be able to grind out these wins. So, maybe a couple of months ago, Millwall claw back an equaliser, but this time they didn't. So, if we can put in 45 minutes of getting in front and then 45 minutes of holding on to it and seeing it out, then, we're all going to be happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Tom?
Yeah, so I agree with that as well. Like we came out all guns blazing, like some of the best football we've seen, and I felt as a fan, I think it's quite frustrating that we didn't put more past Millwall. I think when we was on top in that first half, we had to sort of stamp off our fort by scoring more goals, but obviously it wasn't to be. And then Millwall sort of adapted to how we was playing and sort of figured out how to sort of shut us down a bit. And unfortunately, we didn't really get out of second gear in that second half. And then to me, it felt like at times it sort of felt like it was going to draw the game, like the way they were streaming forward the last half an hour, and there was sort of getting these half chances, and then obviously we saw Zian Fleming's lob nearly beat Allsop when he was right off his line, and that was heart and mouth situation. And
Watford flashbacks.
Yeah, literally, I think we should, like Anna said, I think we should have made the subs a bit earlier because it felt like inevitable that there was going to get an equaliser, and then obviously once we made the subs, we settled down a bit more, but. Yeah, I think I listened to Vecino after the game, and he said that obviously it's the championship. It's important to sort of grind up these results, and it's always going to be a difficult game. He was obviously impressed with how we started and the football we played. But I think a lot of the times this season we've criticised the team for not grinding up the result. But now we've shown in our last 2 matches, like against Sunderland and Millwall, that we're capable of getting these 1-0 wins, and it's only a matter of time with the quality we've got now that we're going to start scoring more goals. It's just about, I think, the players gelling together, and we've got a lot of new players now. So once they gel, I think hopefully the floodgates start opening. But it's obviously a promising time, like that we're capable of scoring, but also capable of grander results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. So I've got here to talk about Tufan in the false 9 position. Did pretty well there last year. This time, I think, Sharp, we can't really rely on him to play whole 90 minutes. Connolly Delap out, and then Ohio, to start probably a bit too quick, having not probably started like any games this season, possibly. I thought Tufan might have been my man of the match. Linked the play really well, but I think the most importantly, just put in a huge amount of effort pressing, for it was 80, 85 minutes, the passion for the club was on show. Wonderful and well done, Ant. Flip side to that was Even though he played extremely well, he was linking the play together. But at times, because there's no one beyond him, is that maybe the reason why we didn't have that focal point to sort of score more goals from? That maybe you want a higher on the pitch, but then you're not dropping Carvalho or Zaruri or Philogene. So where does that fit? Like, how are you going to fit them all in? Because Tufan's probably a better player than Ohio. And, you're saying is false nine his best position? Maybe. Is that the best position for him to be in the team, though? So, what do you think about that?
It depends on the state of the game. Obviously, we started brilliant with Stefan in the false nine, and the way he was linking play, like you say, was brilliant. And I was so huge. What we've criticised Tufan for, especially last season, was the effort, I suppose. But now we're seeing like how he's fully fit now. He's probably in the best shape he's been in since he's been at the club, and we're seeing that in his performances and really reflected yesterday. Like, he was the first point of press. I think it was important for him to press the goalkeeper because then they was forced to kick it out and then would win the possession back and would be back on attack again. But yeah, in terms of before, I think that is his best position just off the front. But in terms of obviously you lose the threat in the box, I suppose, centrally when he does play there. But then that's when the strikers off the bench come into things. It's obviously a good dilemma to have, for Rossini tactically. But yeah, I think with obviously the attributes Tufan has with his ability to hold the ball up and bring others into play and finish chances when the opportunity arises, and that is his best position. And Carvalho's undroppable, so I guess we'll be seeing him there a lot more often. But it's good now we've got like the likes of Ohio and Billy Sharp to bring off the bench as an out-and-out striker to mix it up. Yeah,
it is a good dilemma to have, certainly. Anything else to mention about Millwall?
One criticism I had was I think sometimes down the right, Philogene and Coyle, they sometimes got mixed up. I noticed a lot of times like Coyle would play the ball short, and Philogene had already made the running behind. It's obviously minor, but it's like I think we've got to sort of play them sort of passing behind a lot more because a lot of the times we're playing in front of Millwall. I know there's sometimes playing great balls over the top and getting behind, but I think that's where Coyle has to sort of play that risky pass and free Philogene because I think he's much better when he's running to space rather than getting the ball to feet. But then we're seeing them obviously all City will let them clips where he's getting out of that tight situation with two players around him, so he can do both. But I think I prefer him to see him running behind a lot more. That's just one sort of thing I noticed in the game. But yeah.
I feel like Philogene was trying to run in behind a lot, and we didn't use that option. I feel like because we prioritised the short pass, the short accurate pass, rather than the risk. That a lot of times, I mean, Coyle, I felt like that was one of Coyle's worst games that he's had in a long time. He didn't play badly. I feel like in an offensive sense, he wasn't anywhere near as good as he usually is. I feel like Philogene in the second half especially kept trying to run in behind his fullback, and Coyle, instead of trying to go over the top, was trying to short pass and giving it straight to Millwall or straight off the pitch. And I think sometimes he gets a bit frustrated because he clearly waits on the shoulder of defenders and wants to get in behind, just like he did when Allsop popped it in behind and he was through on goal. And that Millwall play should have been red carded, by the way, because he's straight through on goal. I can't understand how that was a yellow. But that needs to happen more often. I feel like in this system, it's all well and good doing the short pass, the play out from the back. But when you've got players willing to make those runs in behind, use it. How many times have we scored from it this season? I would say probably quite a few, especially when like you've got players like Connolly on the pitch who loves to go in behind. But yeah, it's definitely not. I don't think he doesn't try to run in behind. I just think we just don't find him. I feel like even the time where he was just after he'd done that little bit of skill where he had the two Millwall players on his back, he could have flipped it over the top for Zarori on the other side, and then he went to go do what he did again. And I was just like, sometimes players just need to get their heads up. But that's that final third thing that we've been on about on that end product, but which I assume will come because they're all young, aren't they?
I think sometimes we don't use all the tools we've got in our box. Certainly, we can get the ball a lot more to our wingers and be more of a threat. But I suppose that's a minor criticism. But yeah, we need to sort of use more of our tools.
It's just be more direct, isn't it? We need to be more direct with the ball.
Look at some of the goals we scored this season for being direct. Like you go back to Connolly against Blackburn away. where Alfie Jones plays that ball over the top and we score. There's obviously other examples at home as well, like we play the ball through to the lap and we've scored. And I think it is effective as going long sometimes because it gives the opposition something to think about. No defender likes running back to their own goal, but you get centre-backs like Jake Cooper, these big imposing defenders, they don't mind obviously defending ball to feet because they know they can sort of win it off you. They've got the physical edge. So you need to sort of play it in behind, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting sounds coming from Tom there.
Not from me, stepdad.
Yeah. So it's just you. Are you hungry, maybe? Yeah. So, next two games. Now, see, I would bring up the combined lineup, but looking at the form Swansea are in, and like I don't need to say any analysis on Rotherham. They're just crap. We will lose now, but they are. I'm not going to do a combined lineup because it would just be for the first time this season 11 whole players. And then we're definitely going to lose both. But I think it's a massive opportunity to get some more points on the board. It's probably like every game's difficult, but I'd rather the team wasn't, being made to gel against Southampton and West Brom in a few games. We have Swansea with 15th or 16th, and then Huddersfield and Rotherham down at the bottom after that, or Rotherham then Huddersfield. That's probably good games for them to sort of get going against and probably have more possession as well. The Swansea match, how do we see that one going? And would we make any changes? Presumably not.
No, unchanged. I don't think you could change that team. Obviously, you should never change a winning team, and I think we've not really got any sort of dilemmas to make, I guess, like in terms of selection right now. I think we've got to keep the same team. It'd be good to see sort of a Mer come off the bench next game and Ohio have a bit more of a influence as well. But apart from that, I think, same team for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't really. I mean, it was hard to predict the 11 that was going to play Millwall, to be fair, but I feel like Giles picked himself because left back, we needed one and we got one. And then Zarori, because, we lost Lakilo and Aliar, so those two kind of were like forced ones. I feel like Allsop is aware that we brought in a new goalkeeper and is like, right, that's it. I'm gonna have to try and nail this spot down. But yeah, no, you can't really change that team. I feel like like we said, the first half we were absolutely outstanding. We faded a bit towards the end of the second, but I feel like the new signings probably haven't all been playing week in, week out, so they're not fully match fit. And you've got Philogene coming back from injury, and we're still maybe a bit leggy. So fully fit side, I think this is a top 6 team, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think they'll really need this clear week to sort of train, because Zuri would have had one training session, Omer the same, Ohio and Giles would have had, was it 2 or 3? I imagine Omer will probably only make his debut if we're probably more than one goal up in the last 5 minutes, just to give him a bit of exposure. But yeah, I don't imagine him sort of getting stuck in immediately. So predictions for Swansea?
I'll go 2-0 to Hull.
2-0 Hull. 2-0 Hull. Nice. Yeah.
At home. I'm going to go, I don't know, three clean sheets in a row. I don't think we've done that all season, have we? I'm going to say 2-1, just based on that.
2-1. Yeah. 2-1. I like 2-0. I'll keep going 2-0. I think I went 2-0 for Millwall. It didn't happen, but I like that.
When Will went 3-0, obviously he's gone 3-0 last season, but when we scored that opening goal, I was thinking, have I messed up here with my 2-1 prediction, or we're going to roll these over? But obviously it didn't happen like that, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's a few other pieces of news. Firstly, we haven't mentioned some of the players that did leave on deadline day. One surprise one was Harry Vaughan going on loan. Vaughan going on loan wasn't a surprise, but Vaughan going on loan when Cynic, Aliar and the Kilo all left as well. Aliar on a permanent. That was a surprise because I thought, well, maybe he would actually get some game time now. But now he's gone to Bristol Rovers to play alongside former loanee Harvey Vale. Good move for him.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I said at the start of the season that I know he obviously towards the end of last season he came in and he looked promising, but we knew that in terms of the physicality, I don't think he could live up to the expectation. But hopefully, going on loan to a League One club second half of the season, he can make an impression. Yeah, we'll have to see where he's at, because I think it's hard to say what sort of level he's at right now. I know he was good towards the end of last season, but a spell in League One will show like how good he is, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's never had a run of games. Well, not for a few years. He did play pretty much a full season for Oldham, but that was a few years ago now. So 2019 maybe. So yeah, I think it's important for him to go and get some football somewhere else. And then also Aliar left on a permanent, bit of a shame.
Yeah, it was.
He might have even left by the time.
I was quite sad. I was quite sad, to be honest. Like, he was one of them where you always thought there was more of a player in there. Like, we saw how good he was when he first came. Like, Will Keane was put up front as a striker, and then at the start of last season, under Shota before his injury, he was brilliant. Like, obviously, he was playing as a left wing back sometimes, then on the wing. And I thought, oh, we've got a really good player here. And then that injury sort of knocked the stuffing out of him a bit, and he never really got back to that form. And then when Rossini came in, he's not really a Rossini sort of player, I don't think, technically, because he likes his attackers to be technical. And we know Aliar is not. I think he does have that in his locker, but he's quite erratic, I think, with his final products, and that's ultimately what's cost him. We didn't see enough of him in the final third to suggest that he was living up to expectations. So ultimately, it's probably the best if he's moved on. But like I say, I'm still quite disappointed how it's turned out, because I really liked him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked Aliar. I think he was always one of those who, so because of his injury record, we never really saw full potential Aliar. I think when like start of last season, he was fantastic. Yeah, he has runs in the team where he looks really good, and then he gets a long-term injury. And I just feel like with the current trajectory the club's on, we can't afford to have players that are presumably on high wages but are never playing. And he's just, he's one of those players who we've just not kept fit often enough. So when someone offers £2 million for him, in order for you to bring in players like Zarori on loan and Carvalho on loan, you can't really say no, can you? So hopefully it clicks for him wherever he's gone. But it is a shame, because I do feel like if we'd have had a fully fit Aliar from the beginning, we might have seen a different player. But just made of glass, similar to Connolly and Vinagre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other two pieces of news to mention. Firstly, we'll talk about Africa Cup of Nations. Adama Traore, after missing a penalty in their 2-1 defeat, Mali's 2-1 defeat to Ivory Coast, means he's going to be back for the next match. Unfortunately for us, fortunately for him, Seri, he's been back in the Ivory Coast team, played a man of the match performance against whoever they played, Senegal in the round of 16, an hour yesterday against who
Mali?
Was it? Mali. I mentioned that.
It was against Traore, didn't he?
I just immediately forgot. Yeah, he won't be returning, but they're into the semi-final. They were on the verge of being, I was going to say executed, probably were.
I think it's
going to be for their performance against.
I've got to change a bit.
I think now we obviously wanted him back as soon as possible. Now I think I'd rather him just go and win it, to be honest. Like, be great,
eliminated, not executed, eliminated from the tournament. But yeah, if Seri's gone for so long,
they get executed, man.
He may as well win. He may as well win. Traore, been okay, not great.
He's great. He's better than he's better in the deeper role. If we could talk about,
he's better in the middle.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why we didn't sign another. I know we didn't really sign another centre mid, like in terms of someone to play that deeper role. So I think that's where Rossini sees Traore playing in the future, I guess. So I know
he's going to be utility. He's going to be like a versatile backup, I think. I think the reason we've sent Vaughan out on loan is because realistically, yes, it's square pegs and round holes again, but Zarori and Philogene are going to be our first choice wingers. Then you've got Emma and Traore that are going to be the backup wingers, I would guess. So realistically, Vaughan's game time was going to be minimal, and he's a really good young player that needs to be playing football rather than sat on the bench here. So it was a good move, really. But yeah, Traore I think is going to be used as a winger by the looks of things, but he's far better in the middle. We know he is, but again, the options in the middle are probably
he's fourth choice
on the pecking order.
his fourth choice in the middle. Like obviously you got Slater, Morton, Seri as your three options there, and after that you got Traore and then Doherty. So it's understandable. Like I think before I was saying, oh, probably should sign a centre mid, but looking at the options, we don't really need one, I guess. So
yeah. And the other bit of news was Tan Kessler's frustration over the council refusing to give them permission to build their proposed sort of not just football village, but kind of sports village where
there's a petition now.
Hull Fair currently is.
I've signed it. It's on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether they'll look at that.
Yeah.
Hull Fair. I mean, it's a big.
This is going to be. It's a long like. Hull Fair.
It's simple, really. It's simple. The council is in a position where, for some reason, they're very happy with Hull Fair being where it is. Realistically, and I think for a long time, people have been aware that Hull Fair needs to be somewhere more accessible from the A63 to stop traffic in the centre being so bad. If you could do a park and ride for people from Hull to the Hull Fair, and then people that are coming from Leeds and the other Yorkshire places that come to Hull Fair, that it needs to be in a better location that's not in the city centre. They, for some reason, don't want to lose it. I mean, it's quite dodgy that apparently the last two times they've been requested to post how much money they make from Fair. They've denied it both times. I think that's a bit shady. But they obviously have a reason for wanting to keep it there. But for me, it doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of things with what Tan and Ajin. I mean, I can sort of see why they didn't really want to do business with Assem because, as we know, but Ajin and Tan genuinely want to do this for the best reasons. And I feel like, putting the training ground in the shadow of the stadium, which is what they want to do, and inspire these youngsters to look up. That's what you're aspiring to. Look at that ground. That's where you want to be playing. It just all makes sense to have it all there in the same place. It redevelop all that area around the MKM that's looking a bit tired and overgrown, and it's not really serving any purpose. It gives all that area a reason, and you still keep the beauty of the West Park side of things as well. And it's just going to benefit the city far more than a fair that doesn't really add anything to the city, because the money goes to the people of the fair. They're not from Hull; they're travelling fair. All the money you pay, they pay rent to be where they are, but that's it.
Don't forget the market as well. You get rid of that, so it's gonna be a night now. I'm kidding, but obviously there's. I
mean, to be fair, I only go to your fair now for the food. So, unless I take the kids and they go on a couple of rides and things like that. But the rides are like £5 or £6 now, so it's quite an expensive night out. But in football terms, and better for the city of Hull, it makes more sense for them to obviously go through what Tan and Ajin want to do. I did see, I think, one of the councillors reach out to Tan and say he's happy to sit down and talk about it again. So hopefully they're going to, these discussions with a bit more of an open mind and actually have some dialogue about why they don't want to do it or what needs to happen for them to do it. Because I think the frustration is that they just keep getting told no and there's no real reason to it. It's just that, well, fair goes there. Well, move it then. So
we're developing every single part, like the playing squad. Obviously, we've got the fans back, but you look at the sort of training ground, it doesn't look like a championship level training ground, let's be honest. Like, it's just like one little hut, and there's obviously training pitches. And
it certainly wouldn't be Premier League level or, European level, which is where they want to take the club eventually when we sign the Turkish national team. So they're not going to want to come there, are they? So, I mean, the facilities we go to for a few weeks in the summer for, pre-season, probably better than what we have all year round. Better weather, certainly.
Yeah. And that's how you bring the better young players in. Like, obviously, you increase budgets for scouting, around Leeds and places like that, to bring in the young players. And then if you've got attractive facilities to use and stuff like that, you're going to bring in more youngsters, and it's just domino effects. You're improving the club vastly, but it's just obviously the council's a massive stumbling block in being able to achieve that. Once you remove the stumbling block and get past that, then that's when you can start improving things. But obviously, it doesn't look like it's going to happen unless something could be agreed. But we know how hard the council have to deal with, I guess.
Maybe if they suggested putting in pointless bike lanes around the stadium, they might do it. Oh, what's he doing?
What am I doing? I might need a pointless bike lane at some point.
It's your fault.
Nah, I don't really have any plans.
Do you? No. This is a good question. Do you use the bike lanes that they've put in?
Well, no, I mean, for the moment, I cycle away from the town centre to get to work.
Yeah, there you
so
go.
I have no plans of cycling into town and getting hit by a bus and dying. You know, give it a few decades and maybe I'll give it a go. But you know, I'm getting the bus to town. I don't want to die. If a bus hits a cyclist,
but those brand new
be
bike
inside the
lanes
bus.
that they put in that have caused chaos for cars, they help you be really safe, surely.
I used to cycle lane near where I live, but that's been there ages. So I probably wouldn't get public transport. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it, to build the sports village so, of course, politicians are against it. You know, sorry for any politicians listening, but I think pretty much everyone of all political leanings can agree that all politics and politicians, are stupid. So sorry if that's controversial. Get political on something like that podcast.
That's the thoughts of Nathaniel, not the podcast as a whole. I'll just
to Westminster and back. Yeah.
Disclaimer.
So good week for City. 3 points, clean sheet, 2 wins in a row. Hopefully 3 wins in a row for the first time under a senior next week, and then some exciting new signings. So I think playoffs now, not a certainty, obviously, but that is certainly the aim. I think 7th would be disappointing.
I just would love
the window
for us to create that gap now. Like, you see how I think it's like 4 or 5 points between where we are and 14th, so it's still really tight. But we have an opportunity now to pull ourselves a bit away from that.
Yeah, the next 3 games, we should really be aiming at 9 points with the squad that we've got. I mean, Swansea at home, Rotherham away, Huddersfield away, and then you've got Southampton away after that. So realistically, we need to be maximising the next 3 games for what will be a very tough game at Southampton. It's actually that Cudbury play's done us a favour because we'd have played Southampton away.
10 points from the next 5. That would be brilliant, I think. 10 points from the next 5.
Yeah, with the West Brom, that's a big game at home. Yeah.
Because everyone in that chasing pack for the 5th and 6th just seem to be beating each other. So you need to get some sort of consistency and beat the teams around us to create that gap.
There are so many of them.
Good results.
They play each other every week, don't they?
Yeah, the draw was good for us today. Kept us in the top 6, didn't it? So
we need to win at Huddersfield just for our mental health.
Yeah,
let alone playoff.
We're not won there in 11 years, man. 11 years.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't know how I've ended up being convinced to go again, but yeah.
Grim.
Let's hope.
Grim.
There's that one little pub and that's it. That's all there is.
Yeah. So, another excellent episode of the podcast. Well done, guys. Thanks to everyone who's commented and liked and retweeted. And
I think we was 1 subscriber away from 500. So if there's anyone that's been watching this that hasn't subscribed, please do, because it bothers me when we're on 499. We could just make it a nice round number.
Look.
It bothers me a little bit. Where is it? Oh no, we're on 503. So yeah, cheers to everybody who's just subscribed. Thank you.
Excellent.
We need 510 now, or else that's going to bother me.
Come on, get us 1,000. Come on, 10,000.
Well, we'll get there eventually. Yeah. So thanks to everyone for listening. We'll be back next week.